Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into something really special today. We are exploring a highly sensory, deeply experiential story by an author named Phil. Phil manages to perfectly capture a feeling we've all had, enduring a day of extreme, absolutely inescapable summer weather. Through his really straightforward, honest narrative, we get a front row seat to a story about above and below, melting, and extreme heat. We're going to unpack exactly how Phil uses everyday observations to build this vivid picture of a sweltering day. Okay, let's dive right into this. Right out of the gate, Phil hits us with an opening line that instantly sets the tone for the entire day. I am melting like an ice cream. It's just such a brilliant, relatable metaphor. I mean, we all know exactly what that feels like, right? It's not just feeling warm, it's that full-body heavy defeat where you literally feel like you're losing your shape to the high temperatures. It immediately anchors us right there in his physical reality. Section 1. Melting like ice cream. Setting the scene of extreme heat. To really understand what we're dealing with here, we just have to look at the casualties of the heat, because it's not just Phil who is melting. His support worker, Chris, is right there with him, also melting with this extreme heat. But the detail that really gets me is Haley the cat, melting in her fur coat. It's such a vivid image. Imagine being stuck in a fur coat in that kind of weather. Phil is looking around his environment and recognizing that literally every living creature in his flat is trapped in this oppressive blanket of heat. So, faced with that overwhelming heat, what's the immediate biological reaction? Phil tells us we both get cold water for ourselves. It is the very first line of defense. And this simple action actually sets up a running theme that we're going to see throughout Phil's entire day. This active, continuous search for relief. When the environment gets that hostile, basic instinct kicks in, and getting cold water becomes priority number one. Moving into Section 2, hiding by the freezer, seeking sanctuary in the co-op. And this brilliantly illustrates how we adapt to our surroundings when the weather gets extreme. Phil and Chris decide they can't stay in the flat, so they go into the co-op to cool down because it has air conditioning. But they don't just walk the aisles, they literally hide near the frozen freezer. I absolutely love that. The freezer becomes their temporary, icy sanctuary against the heat outside. But here's the funny thing. Notice what happens while they are standing in their freezer sanctuary. They're already planning their next escape. Even while they're successfully cooling down, Chris says he wants a cold shower when he gets home to his flat, and Phil says the exact same thing. It just goes to show how intense the day is. Your mind is constantly jumping to the next opportunity to cool off. Which brings us to Section 3, the burning sky above and a walk down the mountain. Now, what's really interesting here is Phil's spatial storytelling. Notice how he divides the world into two distinct layers. Above, in the sky, the sun was incredibly hot. And below? Below is the mountain, where Chris and Phil went for a walk after visiting the co-op. They're sitting down, looking at these lovely fields below, but the sweat is just dripping off them because of that burning sun above. It's this beautifully stark contrast between the fiery sky up top and the heavy, sweaty reality down on the earth. Amidst all that dripping sweat, though, we get this wonderful moment of connection. Chris turns to Phil and says, "Drink plenty of water, buddy, because it's so hot." It's such a simple thing to say, but it highlights a crucial element of surviving extreme weather: camaraderie. Chris is looking out for Phil. It's a gentle reminder that when the world is melting around you, you've really got to look out for each other. Section 4, a refreshing river paddle, finding nature's respite. So after enduring the sweltering flat, hiding in the supermarket, and sweating at the base of the mountain under that burning sun, the geography shifts. They came to a river. If you're following Phil's story, this is the exact moment where you can almost feel the air temperature finally drop. It's the promise of cool, running water right when they need it the absolute most. And then Chris delivers what might just be the best line of the entire day. Shall we take our socks off and go and have a paddle? I mean, how inviting is that? Taking off those restrictive, sweaty socks and stepping right into the water marks the absolute sensory climax of their day. They are finally breaking free from the suffocating heat. And the verdict? Phil tells us it was lovely and refreshing. Think back to the very beginning of the story, where Phil felt like he was melting like an ice cream. Now, contrast that with this moment of pure, watery comfort. It brilliantly shows how extreme heat actually makes relief feel so profoundly rewarding. That river paddle just wouldn't feel nearly as magical if they hadn't spent hours enduring the sweltering heat beforehand. Finally, Section 5. The hot journey home, returning to the heat. Let's step back and see how this builds across their whole day. Look at this sensory roller coaster. They start the morning melting in the flat with poor Haley the cat. By midday, they are tactically hiding by the co-op freezer. The afternoon brings dripping sweat below the mountain, followed by that blissful, refreshing river puddle. But how does the outing end? Well, reality sets back in. Chris and Phil gets on a bus and it is really hot. But hey, at least they know those cold showers they dreamed about earlier are waiting for them at home. It is a complete, endless cycle of seeking and finding relief. Phil's highly sensory story leaves us with a really powerful reflection on how we move through the world when the elements turn against us. It reminds us of the simple, universal human joy of finally getting some relief from the heat. So I'll leave you with this question to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. When the sky is burning above in your own life, where do you go to find your refreshing river below? Thank you so much for joining me to explore this incredible slice of life narrative. Stay cool out there, and I will see you next time.